Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to talk about context managers in Python. So let's get into it. So context managers allow you to efficiently manage resources, optimizing, for example, usage of memory or the speed at which your program runs. And this is extremely useful when you're a more advanced programmer because you might be working with some really advanced functionalities, or you're working with really large files, large pieces of data, and you need to know how to manage resources properly. So in this video, I'm going to teach you what context managers are, how and why to use them, and also how you can create your own custom context managers, first using a class and then a generator function. So I'm sure you've seen this plenty of times before. So with open and then the name of some file, and then mode as file, and then you write something to that file. For example, file. So basically what this does is it opens this file and then it performs some kind of operation on my file. In this case, I'm just writing something to it, and then it closes it automatically. And the reason it closes it automatically is this with keyword right here. So this is a context manager. It closes the file automatically independently of what happens. So you're not wasting resources trying to keep the file open even when you're not using it anymore. So why is this useful? Well, there is another way to open your file, which would be file equals open, and then the name of your file, so file.txt, and then the mode, and then file dot write file, and then file dot close. So basically what this does is the same thing as before. It opens the file, it writes something to it, and then it closes it manually. So the problem with doing this is exactly that, right? You have to close your file manually at the end of your opening statement because there is no context manager. And so if some kind of error occurs in the middle of opening your file, so for example, if I misspell this and I run that, you can see that this is going to throw an exception, right? So this is going to open our file, and then since it throws this exception, it's not going to reach this closing statement. So my file is not going to be closed even though I'm not using it anymore. Now you could try to add a try finally clause. So you'd write try and then indent this and this, and then finally, and then indent that. So basically what this does is it tries to, oh, I forgot the colon here. So basically what this does is it tries to perform these operations, and independently independently on if the operations are successfully completed or not, it's going to close the file. Okay, it doesn't really matter what happens, it's going to close the file. That's what this finally keyword does here. Now, this isn't optimal, and you should always try to use a context manager when opening a file. So I want to teach you how you can create your own custom context managers using a class and then using a generator. So let's start with the class. Let me just close my terminal. Oh, sorry. Okay. So I'm going to write class. My class is going to be called contman. In here, I'm going to define my init method. So init and then self. And I'm going to pass in two parameters here, file name and file mode. So these would be the parameters that you pass into the open built-in statement. The open built-in function when you're opening a file, right? And so self dot file name is going to equal file name, and then self dot file mode is going to equal file mode. Okay, so this is our init method. We've defined the name of our file and the mode we want to open it with. And then I'm going to define another method, which is going to be called enter. And this is just going to take in the parameter self. And then in here, I'm going to open my file, basically. So I'm going to create a variable called self.file. And this is going to equal opening the self.file name with the self.file mode, like so. And now I want to return this file object. So return self.file. Okay, And lastly, I'm going to create another method, which is going to be the exit method. And this is going to basically close our file. So this is going to take in 3 additional parameters, which are going to be the exception type, exception value, and then trace back. Don't worry about these parameters yet. I'm going to explain this in just a moment. And in here, I just want to close my file. So self.file.close. Okay, so just to recap, what this does is it allows me to enter a file name and a file mode, and then it opens that file in that file mode, and then it closes the file. And now I can use this class normally with a with keyword, so with, and now instead of my open built-in function, I'm going to put in my class. So const-min, my file name is going to be file.txt, the mode is going to be write mode as file, and then I'm just going to write file.write. I'm just going to write file to my file. Okay, but what are these parameters that I put in the exit method? Well, first of all, let me just print all of those. So print exception type, print exception value, and then print the trace back. Okay, so as you probably realized, these parameters are related to exceptions. So basically what this does is it allows you to handle exceptions or any error that might occur when you open your file inside of the exit method of your context manager. So the first parameter indicates the type of the exception, the second one indicates the value, and the third one indicates the traceback, which is a report that contains all of the steps that caused the error. Okay, so let me run this, and you can see that this prints none, 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 because no exception was raised, right? But if I do raise an exception, so in here, let me raise, for example, a type error, and then error in here, and I run that, you can see that this is going to print the type of the exception, so type error, and then the value, which is the string I put in here, and then the trace back at a certain location, and then it's just going to raise the exception normally. Now, you might not want to raise an exception. So if you don't want an exception to be raised, you can write return true inside of here. And basically what this does is it ignores any exception that is raised. So now if I run this, this is only going to print the type, the value, and then the trace back because of these print statements that I put in here. And it's not going to raise the exception normally. The thing is, you can't really do this, right? You can't just ignore exceptions. You have to handle them properly. What you can do is you can ignore only a certain type of exception. So for example, if I only want to ignore type errors, I can put if is instance, and then in here, exception value like that, and then type error, and let me just indent this. So basically what this does is it compares the exception value and the type error. So that's what this is instance built-in function does. And if the value of the exception is equal to type error, it's going to return true. So it's going to ignore that exception. So now if I run this, you can see that no exception was raised. But if I change this into any kind of error that isn't a type error, and if I run this, you can see that an exception is raised. So type errors are ignored, value errors are not ignored because I did that. Okay, so that's how you can handle exceptions within the exit method of your context manager. Now, let me delete this and all of this. And now I want to show you how you can create context managers using generators. So I'm going to write from context lib import context manager. And this is going to serve as a decorator for my generator. Now, if you don't know what a decorator is, don't worry, I'm going to make a video about that very soon, so stay tuned for that. And also don't worry too much about it, okay? This is just basically going to transform our generator into a context manager. So I'm going to write at context manager, and then I'm going to define my generator is going to be called const-min, just like my class. And then I'm going to pass in the file name again in the file mode. Okay, so in here, I'm going to open my file. So file is going to equal open file name in the file mode. And then I want to yield my file, okay? And then in the end, I'm going to close my file. So file dot close, and I can still use this with statement here with my file. So now let me run this. You can see that everything worked correctly. We've successfully built our custom context manager using the generator and the context manager decorator. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope it was easy to understand. If you liked the video, if this was valuable to you, please like and subscribe to support the channel. If there's any question that you might have, don't hesitate to ask, and I'll see you in the next one.